What's good, everybody? It's your boy Big Nate. Welcome to Big Nate's Patreon, home of the best Patreons, and of course we got some more dope ass reaction videos for you. So up first we have David Foster Wallace on the future of fiction in the information age. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let's make that full screen.
In a way, I agree.
Okay, and it's already playing. So let's get the volume right. Hit that play. I got the and let's go.
In a way, I agree. If you think about that stuff, like the size of the audience and how much it will appeal to a reader, you go nuts fairly quickly. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think where Mark and I differ a little bit is I think, in a weird way, the condition sort of commercially for fiction.
I don't know who Mark Lehner is, but also he looks very like studious, kind of like a grown-up trailer park version of Harry Potter. Let me know in the comments if I'm right.
Bears a little bit on the aesthetics of writing right now, because at least the generation that I think of myself as part of was raised on television, which means
First off, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably already have got there, but if not, get to my latest podcast that I did on his essay to this day I forget it, E Pluribus Unum, something like that, but it's U.S. television and fiction, where he makes the whole argument that writers of his generation and past basically grew up and their fiction was informed by television and by different tropes of television, and how television is like this self-perpetuating entity. You'll have to get there, but it's like all the television that gets watched to such a degree that they have to make it like meta level television. We do a whole like deep dive into that essay, which was a really good essay. But the idea too that fiction writers, and particularly postmodern fiction, is actually like literally inspired directly by the mass consumption of television.
That at least I was raised to view television as more or less my main kind of artistic snorkel to the universe. And I think television...
First off, that was fire. He said artistic snorkel. What does he mean by that? I mean, I could hit the play button, but I'm assuming it's like, because from the essay he's talking about voyeurism, like the idea of spying, and like the job of the writer is really in many ways to like, he calls them oglers, but like real human situations are the stuff of writing. That's the food, the raw material of writing. And I believe the snorkel analogy there is that oftentimes what happens is, rather than paying attention to actual people out in the real world, that gets replaced with the like ingestion of like TV, and that in turn affects fiction,
which is a commercial art that's a lot of fun, that requires very little of the recipient of the art.
Engaging but not demanding. That's what he says in the essay. Get to that podcast. It was a good one.
I think affects what people are looking for in various kinds of art, and I think can make the sort of fiction, which, if I can lump a bit, I think all three of us do, stuff that's at least harder than average, weird, requires some work to read. What's interesting to me is the very phenomenon that perhaps demographically cuts into our audience is a big part of sort of what's going on in the country that I think fiction writers are trying to capture in some way. Fiction for me, mostly as a reader, is a very weird double-edged sword. On the one hand, it
is kind of crazy. I don't mean to bring this up in bad taste or anything, but it is prevalent in my mind. It's noticeable in my mind that David Foster Wallace did take his own life, and it's just, I only bring it up simply to say that it is very surreal to see footage of these people in light, and if we're being honest, I at least do tend to read some of their writing in light of later actions like that. But so this is just kind of, and this is my first time ever watching David Foster Wallace on any video medium at all, so it's interesting.
It can be difficult, and it can be redemptive and morally instructive and all the good stuff we learn in school. On the other hand, it's supposed to be fun. Yeah. It is a lot of fun, and what drew me into writing was mostly memories of really fun rainy afternoons spent with a book. It was a kind of a relationship. I think part of the fun for me was being part of some kind of exchange between consciousnesses, a way for...
Ooh, fire. And just to interrupt him, I've been thinking about this kind of a lot. I wrote something the other day, something to the effect of like, if there's a number one thing to do to better yourself, like not better yourself, improve yourself intellectually, is reading. Because it's like, bro, my teachers have been Plato, Socrates, Cicero, Montaigne, Tolstoy. Actually, sorry, I have read Tolstoy actually. So back up, but not his big stuff. But like, especially in like something like philosophy, where it's like, dude, this is in. I think it is Socrates or somebody has some quote. No, it's probably not him, but like has some quote that it's like, dude. Actually, I think it is him, where it's like when you read a book, it's like it's literally like the lifetime of somebody's thinking put up onto the page, like condensed into like this crystallized version of all their thoughts and insights of a lifetime, and you can just read that. And then as like David Foster Wallace is saying, so much time, and especially with like novel and more so like literary stuff, it's like it is a sort of conversation between minds. When you think about it, it's really almost like a sort of time travel, because I'm reading, for instance, right now, like Plato or Socrates, whatever you want to call it, the Republic, and it's like, dude, I think about it, it's like, dude, this was written in like BC, like in Homer times. Like this is thousands of years old, which is just like, and I'm reading it, and it's like I'm following the arguments, and it's like it's funny as fuck too. Like they're telling jokes and shit. Some stuff is just timeless, but like he's saying, a conversation, an engagement between consciousnesses. Dude, shout out David Foster. I get that he's a douchebag or like douchey. Really, what it is it's not he's a douchebag. The douchey kind of people are attracted to him. That's what it is. But he has that whole image. I haven't seen any of that at all. I've just seen a dope dude.
Human beings to talk to each other about stuff that we normally can't talk about. Like we're sure not going to be able to talk about this stuff here, you know. The thing that interests me in a lot of the stuff I think that I do has to do with, I think, a lot commercial entertainment, its efficiency, its sheer ability to deliver pleasure in large doses.
Dude, okay, you really should get to the podcast, because it's like what he's talking about here is completely analogous, and even more, it all the more so applies. It's like exacerbated with social media. He's talking about commercial industry basically inducing or distributing, or whatever he said, massive amounts of just like pleasure, like base, entertaining but not engaging, or engaging but not demanding content. That's social media. When you think about it, that's some Brave New World kind of shit, bro. We really are all just on our fucking phones all day, TV all day, 6 hours a day between TV and social media. That's social media, not even to mention other screen time. Just, I don't know, bro.
Has to do with, I think, a lot commercial entertainment, its efficiency, its sheer ability to deliver pleasure in large doses, changes people's relationship to art and entertainment. It changes
and
what an audience is looking for. I would argue it changes us in deeper ways.
He says it changes what the audience is looking for. That's also like a whole algorithm thing too. But yeah, I agree. Just at a larger level. But like, you know, just in general, the consumption of that much TV will change your interest just in literature. Not to mention the analogy with the algorithm, that it's like, dude, you've seen it where it's like it determines your interest for you. Like I get into things I didn't even know I needed to get into.
To art and entertainment, it changes what an audience is looking for. I would argue it changes us in deeper ways than that. And that's some of the ways that commercial culture and
dude, you should get to the podcast. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it starts off a little slower, but like it heats up and it gets real.
Commercial entertainment affects human beings is one of the things that I sort of think serious or arty fiction ought to be doing right now. There's this part that makes you feel full. There's this part that is redemptive and instructive, where when you read something, it's not just a light. You go, my God, that's me. You know, I've lived like that. I've felt like that. I'm not alone.
Some things in the human experience are just timeless. There's things that are just all human beings go through. Certain stages of life, thresholds, conflicts. This is what I keep coming back to with mythology. That's what I won't get into it. I'll simply say the one word, mythotherapy. But yes, there are these timeless things that you really can't relate to, no matter whether it's this year or like 3,000 years ago with fucking Plato and Socrates.
Oh my God, that's me. You know, I've lived like that. I've felt like that. I'm not alone in the world. I mean, you can get very kind of abstract in the way you talk about it.
Dude, sorry, just not to mention like, you know, actual literature where it's like, dude, the experiences, that's really what literature is all about, just the experience of human life. And it's like, not only can you relate to certain things, they can make you feel certain things. Damn.
What's tricky for me is, see, it would be one thing if everybody was absolutely delighted watching TV 24/7, but we have as a culture not only an enormous daily watching rate, but we have a tremendous cultural contempt for TV. I mean, from Newton Minus the Vast Wasteland has become kind of culture-wide, such that now TV...
Because most people do kind of like hate social media, but yeah, okay, so he's saying like we're addicted to it almost. Like we know it's bad, but like and we have this contempt for it, but yeah, we do it in huge doses every day.
Is itself popular TV. There's this way in which
that was that's some metafiction stuff right there.
Minus the Vast Wasteland has become kind of culture-wide, such that now TV that makes fun of TV is itself popular TV. There's this way in which
and that's a postmodern element, writing about the text itself, writing about the writing itself. We talk about plenty of examples. Slaughterhouse-Five. I won't go through all of them right now, but
we're watching a whole lot
and
of...
like he's saying that whole postmodern element is almost as a result of TV.
Also aware that we're missing something, that there's something else, there's something more, while at the same time...
Say that again,
TV
and
is
say
itself
more.
Popular TV. There's this way in which we who are watching a whole lot are also aware that we're missing something, that there's something else, there's something more, while at the same time, because television is really darn easy. You sit there, you don't have to do very much. I mean, it's not any kind of tactic or whatever, but I think, at least for me, the way I am as a writer comes very much out of what I sort of want as a reader, and what sort of got me off, you know, when I was reading. And a lot of it has to do with, good Lord, I'm really stretching myself. I'm really having to think and process and feel in ways I don't normally feel. And the book has motivated me to do that. 10 years ago, I was reading a lot more avant-garde stuff.
I haven't read Infinite Jest. It's really long. I hear it's actually kind of mid. Let me know in the comments if it's not. But, you know, I don't know. If I like the stuff I've read. I've read a lot of essays. This is a whole different form. So, I don't know. And it's like, if I'm going to be reading a book that long, it needs to be actually good. That book probably needed to get edited down like 200 pages. But let me know if I'm wrong in the comments.
The book has motivated me to do that. 10 years ago, I was reading a lot more avant-garde stuff, and I thought it was very cool.
Avant-garde is like boring shit, or like it's like modern, or like really what comes to mind is it's like stupid style and all style and no substance, form, not actual art. That's what comes to mind. Novelty, gimmicky, shtick.
One of my complaints right now is that because I think commercial entertainment has conditioned readers to want kind of more easy fun, I think avant-garde and art fiction has sort of relinquished the field and is now... Basically, I don't read much contemporary avant-garde stuff because it's hellaciously unfun. A lot of really serious literary
hellaciously
stuff.
unfun?
Hellaciously... First off, that's funny. Hellacious, like hell-aciously. Not fun. Because it's just nothing.
Because it's hellaciously unfun. A lot of really serious
literary... hellaciously unfun 5 years ago and 10 years ago?
Well, the stuff I was reading 10 years ago was avant-garde stuff from like the 60s and early 70s, which, as far as I can see, was kind of the heyday.
That's another thing we talked about. It's like the deconstructive aspect of what the first postmodernists did arguably serve a function of deconstructing, pointing out certain flaws in conventional, in this case, American attitudes and morals. But it's like you can only tear down for so long before you need to build something up. It's just like the constant irony and like cynical attitude has been like, that is a product of like the first postmodern, the OGs who actually really arguably did something, is just insufferable at this point.
5 years ago and 10 years ago?
Well, the stuff I was reading 10 years ago was avant-garde stuff from like the 60s and early 70s, which, as far as I can see, was kind of the heyday. At least of contemporary avant-garde stuff. But these days, a lot of it is very academic and cloistered, and
too.
Basically written for critics and college teachers and PhD students. And it's something that I feel a lot more strongly about that than I do about TV.
Huh. Okay. Well, shit. Yet another successful Big Nate's Patreon, home of the best Patreons, reaction video.